You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
I'm Travis Currah with Sheldon Jones. Week 9 of the CFL season is here, and it's fair season in Western Canada, Sheldon. So last week, I took part in the Klondike Beard Contest at K-Days in Edmonton.
And didn't even tell me.
Okay, so there ended up being 6 beards taking part. The reigning champ, he's actually a strong man. His name's Doug. It is a very impressive beard. I bow down to that beard. There was another fella, I think his name was Mike. He ended up placing second. I'm going to throw some pictures up on the YouTube broadcast here. We were actually in a wrestling ring. They had wrestling on the midway at K-Days. I came out to Notorious B.I.G.'s Big Papa. It wasn't enough. Now, all the competitors are up on the YouTube screen right now. There was actually a guy from Red Deer there. His name's David. And I guess there's a Bearded Villains group. And it's all these bearded guys that raise money for charities, and they get together and do these amazing things. It's so cool. But I really thought that I had a chance at the podium. Let's just say I didn't even get a sniff at third.
Did you finish at least not last?
I don't know. But all I know is I wasn't top 3, so I might as well have been last. But I don't know, man. I think
Your beard is nice.
I think it's in good shape right now, but I guess
might need a little straightening.
Maybe that was the difference. Maybe it was. But I'll put the picture of all 6 beards up. Beard number 4, the winner. Beard number 1 got the silver, and beard number 3 ended up, maybe it's the outfit. Look at that hat he's wearing. That plaid shirt. Maybe that was the difference. I just wear a Metallica shirt and shorts. So
yeah, you gotta live the gimmick, man. You gotta live the gimmick.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to show up with a phony axe and a lumberjack outfit next year. No shaving between now and next July. No trimming, and maybe I got a shot at this bad boy. I'll have to apply some wax to the mustache because it's already over the top lip, and ice cream's a challenge, Sheldon. I'm not you. Like, you're very... Look at that beard. It's just so nicely kept, and I'm just Sasquatch.
If I didn't work in a place where I had to have a nicely kept beard, I would have a giant beard, and my wife would kill me.
See, if I shave my beard, my wife would leave me. So.
Oh, yeah, I'm there too. I'm not allowed to shave it, but it just I can't let it be too long.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was my week last week. As we record this, the Alberta Day of Caring, province-wide bottle drive for the people of Jasper, and the donations matched by the Alberta government, the Canadian government. Sheldon, at last check, it was like $375,000 raised. That is before the match, which...
Sweet, we're going to get $1 million. Nice.
Alberta, thumbs up for taking part in that. Let's go to the first game of the week. It's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers home to the BC Lions here. The Lions are 4.5-point favorites as the over-under is set at 49.5. So the Lions are coming off the bye here. The Bombers do get, it's not like they're going a Sunday to Thursday, but Saturday in Toronto, Thursday in Winnipeg, as the Lions come to town with... a decent amount of rest, but the Bombers have more to worry about than just rest. It does appear that Patty Neufeld, the veteran right guard, is on the 6-game injured list, and Drew Wolodarski is on the 6-game injured list. I will say, so far this season, the 6-game injured list doesn't mean anything. It really seems like they just throw it out there. But 2 veteran players. The Bombers have 13 players on the 6-game, 10 that could be considered starters or getting regular playing time. The injuries just keep piling up for this team, and with their current record, not in a good spot.
No, and having a couple key injuries, with that short week, you don't have as much time to get that next guy ready. So that's not good for the Bombers. And then they're playing a team that was on the bye week, so they're going to be well rested, ready to go. And honestly, they have something to play for because they kind of laid an egg in Calgary their last game, and Vernon Adams didn't play very well. So he's going to want to come out firing and, show all his doubters that he's still the MOP candidate right now.
Well, and yeah, on the other hand, the BC Lions are going to be welcoming Keon Hatcher back to the fold, and that just makes that receiving core even more dangerous. Alexander Hollins and Justin McInnes, they're basically a game and a half or 2 games away from having 1,000 yards. And then you add Keon Hatcher back to the mix, who had 1,200 yards last year, 6 touchdowns. This is just another great receiver for that BC Lions offense, and so good to see him back onto the field after having that Achilles injury in the West Final against Winnipeg last year. TJ Lee already came back, and now Keon Hatcher is back. So these Lions, for their credit, just continue to get stronger here with guys getting healthy at the right time.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of Winnipeg. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this game shakes out. And honestly, like, the Lions are already looking like the best team in the West. They were number 3 in my power rankings this week, but that's just because they were on bye and they didn't get to move up. But getting healthy right now, I know it's not near the end of the season and things could still happen, but this middle chunk of the season is actually really important too, because now is when you continue the separation. We already see like Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, they're kind of falling down, and BC and Saskatchewan are up. So it's a 2-horse race for the first right now, it looks like, in the West. So being healthy is something that the Riders are not. So if BC can take advantage of this right now, that'd be clutch.
I think most of us expected it to be BC and Winnipeg at the beginning of the season battling it out for first, and that's what it has been over the past few years, with BC going to Winnipeg in the West Final and bowing out of the playoffs there. At this point, it does look like a home playoff game is a long shot for Winnipeg, and I thought that, that Princess Auto Stadium crowd is almost the equalizing factor for the Bombers. So far, they're 500 at home, 2-2 on the road. They're winless, 0-4. So at least they got the crowd on their side this time around. And this is cliche, and this is obvious, and we could say it for every team every week. But the Bombers and the way they've been turning the ball over is very uncharacteristic of a Winnipeg team. And I'm just looking at the stats right now. They're actually last in time of possession, which is mind-blowing to me. And yeah, they're last in turnover ratio, -8. If they're going to be giving the ball to Vernon Adams in good field position all game long, the game will be over before it starts, man.
Yeah, like last week they did that, and Toronto wasn't able to capitalize. But if you gave that to Vernon Adams and BC with all of their weapons, they will punish you for it. So if Winnipeg has any chance of winning this game, being on a short week, they have to take care of the football. They cannot turn it over, and they have to score touchdowns. Like, Tre Ford has thrown for more touchdowns than Zach Collaros in 10 minutes of game time. So Zach needs to get his game going, because you said that they do have the home crowd advantage, but if they continue to turn the ball over and they continue to not score points, that home crowd advantage might turn to, booing pretty quickly, because I've been there when they've booed their starting quarterback when they're doing a PSA about drunk driving. So I'm not saying that's indicative of the fan base at all, but I'm just saying, like, that was before they kind of got to their rise to power. And so once you're at the top and once you've been there for a sustained time and then stuff starts to fall apart, the crowds can get pretty restless, and that could happen.
I don't think Winnipeg fans are going to like this, but all we have to do is revisit the last time these teams played in Winnipeg. It was a 26-24 win for BC, but Vernon Adams Jr. threw for 398 yards, and Alexander Hollins had 215 yards receiving. Now Keon Hatcher into the fold, so the offense has another added dynamic. But I pull up the league stats, and the amount of categories that Winnipeg's offense is last in is still mind-blowing to me. Offensive touchdowns, overall touchdowns, offensive points for, sacks allowed, pass efficiency, passing touchdowns, last in all those categories. And last year, what we saw from Buck Pierce and the creativity on the offense and the amount of points they were putting up early in the season. And then this year, having Lawler and Schoen into the fold, able to bring them back, thinking, whoa, this is going to be great for Buck Pierce and company. But losing some key players on the offensive line seems to have changed everything, and the offense is not what anyone expected. Now, Drew Wolitarsky steps off the roster. American Lucky Whitehead steps on the roster. He started his CFL journey with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He was last with the BC Lions. Now he re-debuts with Winnipeg against his previous team, BC. So, I don't know how much of an impact he will have right off the bat, but it is a pretty cool story to see Lucky back onto the field. He's one of my favorite characters in the CFL. The entrances that he sort of became known for in Vancouver. Now he's playing those guys. You know he's going to want to get on the field and make things happen.
Yeah, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and he's just another fast target for Zach that maybe he can get the ball out quickly on a short crosser route or something and just take it down the field. Ontario Wilson has been really good for them, and he's been a burner too. So now if you include Dembski in there too, because Dembski's a quick guy too, I hope Dembski was, carrying around the football the entire week so that he doesn't lose it like the kid in the program when he had the fumble issues. But it's just another target that Zach needs at this time, because Drew Wolitarsky was that clutch second down guy, and that looked incredibly painful with what happened to him last game.
It did.
And the Bombers need any help they can get on offense, like you said, with them being last in so many categories. So they need to have a good game with Brady Oliveira, but they can't just rely on just the run. BC is going to be the type of team that is going to be chucking the ball down the field, and they're going to be scoring touchdowns, and Winnipeg is going to have to be answering back with touchdowns. They can't have Sergio Castillo going 5 for 5 and expecting to win a game here.
So let's talk about Ontario Wilson. Last week, he had 7 catches, 129 yards, and a touchdown, almost 26 fantasy points. He had a quieter game against Saskatchewan, 2 catches for 48 yards. That was on 7 targets, though. And then the game against Calgary, he had 39.1 points. 13 catches, 201 yards, and a touchdown. So he's clearly become Zach's preferred target in the offense. Lucky being back onto the field only helps the young receiver in Ontario Wilson. And you have to think guys like Oliveira, and you said him, Nick Dembski, just hang on to the ball. Those fumbles, they can't happen. I'm sure O'Shea has told them that several times. This can't happen. And And then the matchup, of course, is going to be that physical battle. How can the Bombers bring the energy to the field, because it hasn't been there? And the Lions coming off the bye, looking to be on top of that West Division. They're going to bring the energy to the Bombers, and they're going to bring the fight to Winnipeg. Speaking of fight, I do think that this East Division matchup on Friday is going to be an intriguing one, as well as the Montreal Alouettes head to Hamilton. 4.5 points. Favorites are the Alouettes on the road, where the over-under is 50.5. Now, the Ticats have won 2 games in a row, but now we find what they're made of, right? The Alouettes 6-1, and an interesting note from Al's practice this week. Cody Fajardo's off the 6-game injured list. I did mention that it seems like the 6-game means nothing this year, but he missed a game. And Davis Alexander's performance in the second half last week against Saskatchewan, I kind of thought maybe they'd be all right with letting Fajardo sit for a few games and get that hamstring 100%. Maybe he is 100%. I can't question Cody's toughness. We've seen he is a tough quarterback that wants to be on the field for his team. But I don't know if he's going to be starting on Friday. He's certainly back at practice, and a bit sooner than I thought he would be.
Yeah, well, I don't know why you would pull him off the injured list if he's not going to be starting, because
got to pay him.
You got to pay him, and then also Davis Alexander looked good, and Hamilton, other than playing against Edmonton and I guess Toronto one game, hasn't looked great. They haven't been great defensively, at least, either. So seeing what Davis was able to do in one half against Saskatchewan, you would think that Jason Moss would be comfortable letting him roll out there again. But I know it's probably not the case, but it just a little bit of me is like, did Cody see how good he looked and is like, I don't want to lose my job. I'm good to go, coach. Because like you said before, Cody has played through stuff before, and maybe he's come back from injuries before too quickly, and it's affected him down the line. So I never want to see that happen. And I don't think Jason Moss is the type of guy to like do that, to jeopardize the rest of his season just to get his quarterback back in there for a game right away. Maybe, swelling went down and tested it out, and it really wasn't as bad as they first thought, because that's happened with injuries. Injuries have been misdiagnosed before. But I just hope for Cody's sake that he is good to go if he's pulled it. Like, again, I don't know why you'd pull him off if he's not starting. So we'll see what happens, though.
The Alouettes last played last Thursday, and it does seem to be a storyline that a lot of people are following as the season goes on, because those Ticats traveling back home after playing on Sunday. So a little bit more rest for the Alouettes here, and maybe that's critical for a guy like James Butler. And I think, wow, he had over 20 carries against the Elks. You got to be hurting. At least I would think so. But those running backs, they're a different breed. I think Saskatchewan showed, and we've started to see it, that you can run on the Alouettes. And Sass got away from it in the second half, but almost, 100 yards rushing from Hickson in the first. I think JB, he's going to have a big game for the Ticats if they're going to win this game. The Alouettes are giving up the second most rushing yards. I'm not wearing my glasses, but I think it's 110 yards a game. It is north of 100, I will tell you that. Winnipeg giving up almost 117 for what that's worth. But it seems like James Butler is going to have to be to have a big one, and that only helps out Bo. If we look back at Bo's successes and Bo's Grey Cups in Calgary, they always had a dynamite running back. So James Butler is going to be forcing the Alouettes to respect the run, and Bo can be there to feast on it, just like they did, obviously, against the Elks on Sunday.
Yeah, Bo's always been the type of guy to take advantage of play action because he likes to get the defensive backs to bite on a run and to go over top and go deep. That's been his MO ever since he got into this league. He's been that type of big play quarterback. He's kind of got away from it a little bit, but we saw what he did this last week where, his first 5 touchdown game. And it's pretty crazy because
It is.
I would have thought he's had 10 5-touchdown games just the way he played so early on his career. But his receivers were catching the ball. They were getting open. And like he said, Butler was just pounding the rock and making Edmonton's defense stay honest. So they will need that. And Montreal has been susceptible to the run, but they actually shut down the pass pretty good, I think. So it's going to be a little bit of a chess match there. If they can get those first down runs to set up second and medium, then Bo can just thrive on picking people off and march up and down the field.
I think I was listening to Scott Milanovich's presser after practice on Wednesday. Kind of said, hey, you want to beat your friends almost a little bit more than you want to beat your enemies. And Moss and Milanovic do go way back. So, yeah, that's you're right. It's going to be a chess match here. And I want to see that Ticat defense. Are they more the end of the fourth quarter against Tre Ford, or are they the past couple games where the D-line is getting home, pressuring the quarterback and making life difficult for opposing offenses? And Montreal is a tough team to do that against because the receivers are so physical. They seem like they're willing to block and make things happen because the running game is almost non-existent for the Owls, but it almost doesn't seem like it matters. I mean, what's the point of complaining about it? They've won 6 out of the 7 games so far this season. Fletcher still makes plays in the receiving game, and those receivers block and make things happen. I know Tyler Snead returned to the receiving corps, practice anyway, last week, and I think Charleston Rambo, I think he's still 2,500 on CFL Fantasy. He keeps getting targets more and more in that Alouette offense, and if you need a cheap option, that's always a welcome addition, I think, to my lineup. And anybody that's named Rambo, I'm instantly a fan, man. There's no denying that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If he
That's
comes,
awesome.
I would buy a Rambo jersey. You kidding me? That I always was jealous that Stamps fans got to cheer for Canyon Rambo. And then Edmonton had a player named Stamps, but that is a whole other. And he was a darn good player too. But back to Montreal and Hamilton. I think these teams, they're going back to back. A crucial stretch for the Ticats because all of a sudden, if they win, and then they got the 2 more games with the Argos. Like if they take one from Montreal, I think that's big for their hopes of getting into the playoffs. I know they had that deep hole of 0-5, but getting 1 or even 2 from Montreal, that would go a long way to digging out of that hole.
Yeah, and Ottawa's surging, right? So I don't like before when like a few weeks ago we were probably talking, Toronto, Montreal are kind of running away with the East, but now up with Ottawa's play, they're kind of in the forefront for that second place right now. So yeah, Hamilton and Toronto are going to be the ones fighting out for that 3rd spot as of right now. So they've already taken 1 from them, and like you said, if they can split with Montreal here, that's probably best. It's not best case scenario, but it's almost best case scenario because if we would have talked about this home and home 3 weeks ago, we're probably saying that's a sweep in Montreal's favor like 9 times out of 10. So you win a couple games, one of them pretty decisively, and it makes you kind of change your thoughts on how this home and home may go.
I'm looking at the standings right now, and let's just say there is a chance. It's still in play. Every East team making the playoffs, and 3rd in the West missing. Now, right now, Calgary's 3rd in the West, 3-4. If you are a new fan of the CFL, I guess we should explain the crossover rule. Basically, if fourth in the West, or I guess fourth in the East, is better than third in the opposite division, they cross over and they make the playoffs. I think I explained that all right. So, and then the tiebreakers don't come into play, though. They do need to straight up have a better record. If the Ticats and the Stamps are both 7-11 and third in the West, the Stamps they would still make the playoffs. But it's still in play. And I saw a comment on our YouTube saying, hey, I'm here for an Eastern team crossing over just for the chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's never happened. So I think it'd be awesome, especially if the Riders aren't the team looking out. So I think this year, when the Riders are doing okay right now, I definitely welcome an Eastern team coming into Mosaic to play a game. Let's do it.
That would be quite interesting. Just say it is Bo Levi Mitchell.
He's got a house there, so he could have a good night's sleep. Good night's sleep.
Or did he sell it to Nathan Rourke? Is that the latest rumor?
Shh, we're not getting that one out there yet. Come on, man.
Speaking of properties in Regina, the Riders are 5.5-point favorites over the Edmonton Elks. The over-under is set at 51.5. And the news out of Edmonton is that Tre Ford will get the start. I believe it's his 14th start. He's 5-8 in his previous 13 games. What I did find interesting, though, Sheldon, was that the Elks say McLeod Bethel-Thompson's been dealing with an injury. Which just tells me, why didn't you get Tre in sooner?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just making up an excuse for your guy?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the guy who's been, very outspoken with the league about player safety and all this stuff, if he was really caring about player safety, why would he be playing injured? That doesn't sound very safe to me. Just saying.
I'm just gonna let that.
Just saying. You gotta preach what you preach. You gotta preach what you preach. Because why are you going out there risking your body if you're injured, playing on short weeks? Because you don't want to lose your job. You don't want to lose a starting job. But let's get mad at the league about player safety.
Now, it does look like this Edmonton team could look different at multiple positions coming into this game against Saskatchewan. Kevin Brown's been pretty limited at practice, and even last week, Javon Leake was getting the bulk of the carries for the Elks.
You got to get some. You got to get some money out of that guy. He's not performing in the return game, so
he is third in the CFL in all-purpose yards, Javon Leake. But yeah, I don't know if he's your traditional running back. And of course, this is not an easy assignment. You cannot overstate how good the Saskatchewan rush defense has been. They're the only team giving up less than 4 yards a carry. Just over 3.5 yards a carry. So Javon Leake or Kevin Brown or whoever's going to be carrying the ball is going to have a tough time against the Riders. However, hey, if Javon Leake they're going to be maybe throwing him the ball a little bit. There's some fantasy value there. He's like $4,500, something like that, if you just want to take a flyer. But it seems like Luches Purifoy hasn't practiced this week. Rookie receiver Arkel Smith has been limited, and a defensive lineman Noah Curtis not practicing, and regular starting DB Marcus Lewis hasn't practiced as well for the Elks. So there could be several changes as they head to Regina. As an Amazing Race Canada fan,
I was just going to bring it up.
Taylor, my wife, actually said, hey, does Trevor Harris ever throw a bad pass? Well, I was like, we're evaluating. Nobody running at him. But yeah, there were running routes at Mosaic Stadium, and Trevor Harris, Sean Bain. Is it Jordan Reeves?
I think so. Yeah.
They were all on the field. It was pretty fun. Anyway, one of the moments was one of the racers used to play baseball, and he just trucked like this kid.
Yeah, like a kid from the Regina Thunder.
Now, the kids, they avoided everyone, but as soon as there's a 6'3" guy, let's try to hit him. And the kid got smashed. But anyway, it was cool to see Trevor Harris on there. I thought it was cool. It
was cool. The only thing I'm going to say is, like, just because we're from Saskatchewan, you don't need to make people eat prairie oysters. Like, come on. Like that's not a Saskatchewan delicacy. Yeah, like that's not a Saskatchewan food. No one really eats prairie oysters and pig brains here. Like, I get it. You want to get some entertainment television and get people pretending to wanted to throw up on TV, but like they should have had to eat like 60,000 pierogies or something instead. Like
crushing Vico, like a Vico chugging competition.
Exactly. Like not, let's make him eat some cow testicles. That'll show. Like, come on.
We all go to the Hotel Saskatchewan and crush bison balls.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on the menu this month, I'm sure.
And they didn't even try to put any salt or pepper on it. It just looked like they basically cooked it in the microwave.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure the bearded prairie chef or somebody could have made some bison testicles that taste really good. So
grill them up or something. I don't know. Which one would you have gone for? The brains or the
testicles?
Balls? I think
the testicles for sure, because they like the brains just looked like they were like gelatinous, and like at least the testicles looked like, you know, you could just chew them quick and get them down instead of it being slimy. And
and they looked like they shrunk a lot from, you know, fresh.
Yeah, that is true. I would probably try them, honestly. Like if somebody was like, "Hey, try these," I wouldn't try the pig brain though.
My wife and I actually watched the cooking show on Monday, and they barbecued pig brain. They kind of treated it like scrambled eggs. They even made tacos with some texture in there, some radish and things like that. But the ones at Amazing Race Canada were I mean, Hotel Saskatchewan, I know, and the guys one team actually got to have good breakfast, so it looked like, hey, they had a great stay in Regina. Speaking of Trevor Harris, he's, I guess, nearing a return, according to Corey Mace. He's not going to be on the roster this week, but that's obviously good news for the Riders. And by the time, let me just try to pull up the schedule here. By the time the Riders and the Owls play again, you know, last week it was Shea Patterson versus Davis Alexander / Caleb Evans. Friday Night Football, August 16th, it could be Harris Fajardo, the matchup we wanted last time. And that's a matchup to look forward to.
It would be, because I think this is his 5th game, right? So, like, I don't think they would, if he's going to make it all the way to that, like, because if he's ready to go, it would kind of make sense to take him off and have him fresh against Ottawa, because they're going to be on a short week going into Ottawa next week. But I don't know if he'd have enough practice time to get fully ready to go. So, yeah, it would make sense that would make sense for his first game back. And then, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to get Trevor back, but at the same time, I've been happy to see what Shea can do, because he might be the guy of the future. We don't know. I'd like to see some more out of the offense. The defense has been playing pretty lights out, other than, you know, letting a third stringer kind of go all over them last week. But that is the Rider way. So don't know why we didn't expect it to happen, but getting Trevor back would be awesome. You know, AJ still not probably going to play, so hopefully when Trevor's back, maybe AJ can be back and they can find a way to keep Hickson on there, and then maybe they can kind of be in the same situation that BC's in, with just getting some of their weapons back and can make a run.
However, there are some troubling injury reports still out of Saskatchewan, especially on the D line. Maybe you don't notice Micah Johnson too much, but that guy disrupts plays and he blows them up by himself. The defensive tackle hasn't practiced this week, and neither is Anthony Lanier. And actually, I thought the last couple games, he has really turned it on, not only getting to the quarterback, just getting those arms up and batting balls away and things like that. He's played really good. I know a few weeks ago, the Riders were missing a couple interior D linemen, and they ended up having a pretty darn good game without them. Lanier and Johnson, those are different stories, though. And for a team that we can expect to be spreading the field and running around with Tre Ford, I don't think Micah Johnson would be able to catch Tre. No offense to number 4. Please accept that. But Tre's going to put those guys through a track meet, I think. And that'll wear out any defense if you're chasing this guy around the field.
Yeah, but hopefully they just have a guy who spies him the whole game, because then maybe they don't have to have, 6 guys running after him all the time. If they can just have one guy who's spying him. And look, last season, Tre Ford started a game in Toronto, and he did not play well against Corey Mace. So they have some film to see what they did last time that worked, and hopefully they can. It's tough to look at what happened last week, I think, because Hamilton played so soft. I don't understand why teams will go to that soft of a defense when what they've been doing earlier in the game is working. Like I can understand going back a little bit, but just to give all that open space for this guy to come in and score 3 touchdowns in 10 minutes, that's just kind of, it would be demoralizing to me if I was a defensive player. Like, yeah, you still won the game, but you made it look respectable, right?
Maybe coaches are like players where they kind of lift the pedal foot a little bit. I can understand that. You don't, like, if players are playing, like, pinning their ears back, maybe there's more of a risk of injury, I guess. But at the same time, you would think if you're not playing your hardest, then that would make you more susceptible to injury. I don't know. I'm not a coach, at least at the professional level. I've been a coach in RMF, but that's a little different. But I tell you what, if I was coaching these 12-year-old kids, I wouldn't be taking my foot off the gas. And then right tackle Jacob Brammer, who comes in and performs pretty well for his first 2 games, hobbles off the field on Wednesday after they've already been missing Jamarcus Hardrick. That's concerning for the Riders.
Yeah, because I think it'll be Council who's going to go in instead of him, and he played okay-ish last season. I don't know if I'd be that comfortable with him being the starter, but the offensive line has actually been playing pretty well despite losing Philip Blake and Yoshi. So, and I kind of attribute that to coaching. We got a new line coach this year, and I think that's helped a lot. We do have a couple of young guys who are ready to step up with Zur and maybe Fry if he's ready to go. And Furlan's been playing awesome the past couple of years, and he's kind of become like one of those anchors on the line there. So maybe he can pop out to tackle because he's done that before, and he's kind of excelled at that actually. So whatever it takes to get Shea protected. He wasn't protected very well in that second half when Montreal was blitzing like 7 or 8 players constantly. So hopefully Mark Mueller has kind of figured that out, because that Edmonton saw that, and that's probably what they're going to do to try to get Shea kind of rattled early on. So hopefully they're ready for that.
Edmonton has struggled pressuring the quarterback this year. They're going to need to figure that out, man. And with some offensive line shuffling, that's their key here, to pressure Shea and not give up those crazy big plays. Every team in the CFL has players on offense that will make them pay for I don't know what they do. It's like they forget they're in a game and give up a 75-yard touchdown, and then the rest of the wheels fall off. The Riders have guys that will make them pay for those elk explosions that Andrew from the Turf District likes to call them. The Elks giving up nearly 400 yards a game, just over 390 yards. I don't know. Maybe this is one where Shea Patterson can rebound and put up some nice numbers. Jason Shivers returning to the place where he coached the last few years. And Derek Moncrief returning to Mosaic Stadium to play against the team he spent some years with. So those guys are going to want to put something on the field. And you know what? I was saying to a friend that, Tre Ford comes in down 5 scores against the Ticats. Where's the pressure? There's just go out there and play and at least try to have some fun and give the fans something to cheer for. Well, 0-7 against the team second in the West. Is it going to get worse? I don't think so. Just go out there and play and try to make some plays. And sometimes that can be a dangerous place to be if you're the other team. When you're just trying to maintain your place in the standings. I think a duo, and this might seem as cliche as saying don't turn the ball over, but the Riders need to find a way to shut down the Tre and Gino train, because Gino finds a way to get open when Tre's creating his magic in the backfield, and it happened last week. And it happened last year when the Elks were in Regina, where Tre is just running around and hits Gino. You can't cover that guy for 10 seconds. So that's going to be a combo to look for Saturday at Mosaic Stadium.
Yeah, us Rider fans have a lot of PTSD when it comes to facing backup quarterbacks. And,
they let Cornelius have like 100 yards rushing.
Yeah, I almost had to call that. Yeah, we did, and I was sitting in my regular seats for that game, and where you have like the Madden look from the end zone, and you could just see the wide open spaces. Is like a Dixie Chicks song that that Cornelius had going on there. Like, it was just unreal. But you know what? I'll be sitting in the plush Havana section this game, sipping on my free pop, eating my popcorn, just nervous as all heck, because the Riders have hurt me so many times when it comes to the situation. But I do have a good feeling about this game.
I have a good feeling it's going to be entertaining. We'll see what happens. We go to the last game of Week 9 as the Stampeders, despite losing by 27 to the Red Blacks, are 3.5-point favorites over the Toronto Argonauts. The over-under is at 49.5. I will say this. The Stamps are undefeated at home. It's only been 3 games, but they're 3-0 at home and 0-4 on the road so far. So returning to McMahon Stadium is probably a welcome return for the Stampeders. But hey, Winnipeg tried to let Toronto win last week, and it took them the overtime to make it happen. So I don't know what to expect out of this game. I have to assume that the Stamps offense will look better, because I just don't think there's any way to look more poor or poorer. Jake Maier at times this season has looked quite good, very good, but hasn't really been able to stretch, 2 or 3 of those performances together. Against Toronto, you're going to need to finish drives, and you're going to need to have time to get the ball away. That Argos front is deep. They disrupt backfields. They make it tough on the quarterback, but you're able to move the ball against them. Winnipeg did. They just turned the ball over instead of kicking field goals or touchdowns. So Calgary's I mean, they do have a chance. But it all falls on the quarterback. Is he going to be able to have a rebound game, Sheldon?
I don't know. I don't know what Jake Maier is, because some days he looks great, sometimes he looks terrible, some days he looks mid. Like, I don't know. He's the least consistent quarterback in the league right now, and they're playing at home, so they have that going for them. He has played better at home. They've won all their home games, so I guess the odds would say that we will get good Jake, but Toronto's defense is like, they forced 5 turnovers last week against Winnipeg, and I know a couple of those. Well, no, because they stripped the ball. Like, it's not like Dempsey just dropped the ball or Oliveira just dropped the ball, and they punished Wolodarski to the point where he, in pain, let go of the ball. Like, and they stopped Chris Streveler on a 3rd and 1, which nobody has done this entire season. They're going up against another great short yardage quarterback in Tommy Stevens. So, I think the tools are there for Toronto's defense to keep it close. But my question is can Toronto's offense do anything to keep the game close? Because they've been struggling with Cameron Dukes. Nick Arbuckle had a couple good series near the end of the game coming in relief, but he didn't look good. Neither quarterback looked good last week. So who's going to start this week? We don't know yet. Kadeem Carey, he's been doing really good as a running back. For some reason, they decided to release Rasheed Bailey. We don't know why. Maybe
I was kind of puzzled by that move by the Argos, honestly.
Yeah, like, I don't know if they're trying to clear some cap space for
Don't say it. We'll get bad comments.
I said the fella this time. He doesn't deserve the respect of being called a fella. I don't know why you release a receiver who's done well for you when you're struggling on offense.
Second leading receiver, he brings energy, he blocks. So, hey, obviously you can tell I'm a fan of Rasheed Bailey. Our buddy Neely is a big Bomber fan, and I would have been blown away if he got released by the Argos and then the Bombers signed him and he played for him that week. We're basically back to the 2019 Bombers receiving core. If they bring in Bailey with Lucky Whitehead and Dembski and Wolodarski, who's now hurt, but Rasheed Bailey, I like what he brings to the table, and he can make plays, man.
Why wouldn't you bring him in? You're down Lawler, you're down Schoen. He knows the playbook. Like, it's a simple, unless Bailey's upset that they didn't bring him back in the first place. I could see maybe that, but he's gonna want to play, so. Yeah, I just don't know. Like, it seems that Toronto was doing so well at the beginning of the season that, there was questions of whether or not they would even need to bring that quarterback back. And now it's just they do, it seems, and that's not good for the league. There was all this talk about Nathan Rourke, and I know that Marshall Ferguson wrote an article about where the best places for him to go, and he put Toronto as number 1.
Toronto is number 1.
He put Toronto. He didn't even mention He Who Shall Not Be Named at all in the article.
Wow.
But the thing that makes me not think that that's a possibility is because if the Argos didn't want that loser around, there, I said it, sorry. If the Argos didn't want him around, they would have cut him already.
Mm-hmm.
So for some reason they want him there, and for some reason they still think he's the answer and he's going to win them games. But I don't know. I was hoping for so much more for this Argos team, and now when he comes back, I'm going to not want them to do well at all. So.
Well, let's and it hasn't been talked about much, but last week I don't think it was Dinwiddie, but a coach had to be separated from an offensive lineman.
No, it was Dinwiddie.
It was Dinwiddie.
Yeah, Dinwiddie was going at it with a player. Yeah, and that happens.
It does.
That does happen on the sidelines in the heat of something, but
that makes me wonder if there's something else behind the Bailey release. Even, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. And I'm just gonna say it. Dinwiddie looks rough. Like he's aged, I think, 10 years in the past year, just in looks alone, and so obviously there's some stress going on in Argo land. But I don't know. It seemed like they had it all, and it seemed like they were going to be able to thrive in the situation, and then something has happened where they're just crashing down to earth. And it's not like they've had a bunch of injuries. It's not like they've had a bunch of close calls. Like it just seems like they've gotten figured out, and they were very well coached. And now maybe Corey Mace was a big part of that. Now that he's not there, maybe I don't know.
Hey,
I guess maybe we should go back to talking about the game, but
let me say that number 12 makes plays, and he made plays last year, and some of those deep balls look pretty effortless, man, and that's where the Argos are struggling right now. They're not able to push the ball down the field. Now, they are able, well, they do. They lead the CFL in time of possession every week because of how good they are at running the ball. And Kadeem Carey is returning to a place where he played for 4 years. Sure. He is going to want to have a great game against his old team, the Calgary Stampeders. And that Stampeder defense, while in the last few games, I know last week against Ottawa, I don't know if I can blame it on the defense when they were on the field all game long, but they're the only team giving up 6 yards a carry. They're giving up over 8 yards on first down. If Kadeem Carey's going to be getting those chunks of yards every play against the Stamps, it's going to be a long day for the Calgary Stampeders. So their offense needs to stay on the field. None of these 2-and-outs. And these long drives that they ended up having, a couple of them against Ottawa, but they ended in 3s. Toronto wasn't able to take advantage of Winnipeg's mistakes last week, but I think they're going to bring the physicality, and they're going to be playing that rough and tumble running game against the Stamps, and Carey is a big, big part of that. And I think some people started to get concerned about the injury problems he was having in Calgary a little bit. And so far, knock on wood, he has looked pretty darn good in double blue, and he's going to want to keep that going this week. The Stamps kind of surprised some with a couple of releases this week. Linebacker Diego Fago was brought in after spending training camp with Saskatchewan, so he gets released, but they also release defensive back Rodney Randall Jr., and some Stamps fans thought he was one of the strongest members of that secondary. He's now been released by the team. He said on Twitter that I wasn't the problem. So I don't know. Sometimes after a tough, embarrassing loss, there are people that take the blame even when they probably shouldn't. And that's the nature of pro sports. It's all about winning games. I know former Elks President Len Rhodes would say differently, but literally pro sports is only about winning. So win is the name of the game in Calgary. So now we got Calgary West against Calgary East at McMahon Stadium. Either way, it's another one of those games we don't know what we're going to get, man. And I'm okay with that. I like the uncertainty sometimes. Although when I go to McDonald's because they have the most consistent Coke and then the Coke sucks, I'm let down. So I hope these two teams don't let me down, Sheldon.
Yep, I agree with you. Diet Coke at McDonald's has let me down now because you can't get it yourself in Regina. Oh yeah, it comes out of that stupid fountain at the drive-through that all the drinks go through, and so you taste like root beer in your
You see,
Diet
I'm
Coke.
glad.
I hate it.
Like, if I go somewhere, this is going to sound extremely lazy and a first world problem, but I don't want to fill my own drink. So, please give me the drink. No.
I
don't
much
know why.
would rather fill my drink.
I have found that at McDonald's, the second pop never tastes as good as the first. So it just ruins the experience. I have no scientific backing on that. But that's...
What do you mean by it ruins it? What do you like?
I don't know. I actually think... Okay, we're talking conspiracies last week. I actually think that the cup is designed that the second one doesn't taste as good.
So you mean like when you crush your Coke and then on the way out you fill it up again to take it with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, but I think the reason why that happens is because you're leaving and then it just melts and it gets watered down.
So
I think that's the reason why the second one, because you don't drink it as quickly and you don't have all that salt in your mouth.
Okay. I think to complete my experiment, I need 2 cups, and I will fill the second, I'll call it the virgin cup, and then see if it tastes the same. Now's the time to do it. They don't need my advertising. Only $1 all summer drink days. We should just pretend we're sponsored by McDonald's.
We should. Maybe somebody would then decide to sponsor us.
Just make up sponsors. Brought to you by Bonanza Moose Jaw. Closed since 2018. Argos, Steps. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just can't sponsor with my own work because they, sponsor another CFL podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about our fantasy rosters for week 9. I'm going to go through mine first here. Quarterback Vernon Adams Jr. heading to Winnipeg. He is my captain. My running backs are Kadeem Carey and Frankie Hickson. I have Tyson Philpott, Justin McInnes, Clark Barnes of the Calgary Stampeders. It's just kind of a hunch. He's coming off a 15-point week against the Lions and a 13-point week against the Bombers. So I got him in my flex spot. If he plays, I'll have to, keep an update on that. And then I have the Argo defense just because I think they were 8,500 or something like that. So we'll see what they do against the Stampeders. What's your lineup looking like?
We're kind of similar. So I have Vernon Adams as my captain, Walter Fletcher and Kadeem Carey as my running backs. Justin McInnes, Tyson Philpott. My flex is a Joe Squared, and I had the Argo defense, but then as we were talking, I switched it to the Calgary defense. They were the same money, so I just think that it's weird that I have Kadeem Carey going up against Calgary's defense, but I think that while Kadeem will get lots of yards, I don't think the Argos are going to be able to throw on Calgary and score a lot of touchdowns. So that's just a hunch, like you said, and they were just a value pick because I don't want to spend money on my defense. Yeah. And I got 100 smackers left over.
I think I have 1,600. Yeah, I have $1,600 left over. We're both pretty heavy on Canadians on our roster, which I just love to see, man. Week 9 of the CFL is here. Let's make our picks. BC, 4.5-point favorites in Winnipeg. I got the Lions.
I also have the Lions.
Montreal, 4.5-point favorites in Hamilton. I have the Owls.
I also have the Owls.
Riders, 5.5-point favorites at home to the Elks. I have the Riders.
I also have the Riders.
Calgary, Toronto, the Stamps are 3.5-point favorites at home. I'm going Argos.
I do not have the Argos. I'm going Calgary. They're at home.
Take care of yourself this long weekend. I don't think it's a long weekend in every province in Canada, but it definitely is for us. So we will enjoy our long weekend. You enjoy week 9 of CFL action. You can rate, review, and subscribe to Two and Out on your favorite podcatcher and YouTube. You can support the show on Patreon as well. We will talk to you next week. I'm Travis Currah. He's Sheldon Jones. It's the Two and Out podcast.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.